Greetings and welcome to Growth Hacking Secrets. I'm your host, Muhammad Siddique from Atlanta, Georgia, and the co author of New Success Secrets, available on Amazon. On this episode, we have a special guest, Sanat Singhal. Sanat is the host of 21st Century Visionary podcast. Please join me to give a warm welcome to our guest, Sanat Singhal. Sanat, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, Mohammed. I'm really excited to be on your show today and to talk to you.
Thank you. Let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who you were surrounded with that inspired you to get started with your 21st Century podcast?
Yeah, so I actually started it around a year ago. It was right after the pandemic hit, and my school was like kind of. I'm currently a high school senior, and so my school kind of shut down basically, and we had to go online. And so I'd always been really passionate about podcasts and avid podcast listener. And I was always looking for a podcast that was more geared towards the next generation, towards more young people and had featured stories about young people. So that was the impetus behind my podcast because I wanted to talk to other young people who were building businesses and making a change in the world and I wanted to do that through and share those conversations with the world. So that's why I started 21st Century Visionary, and it was just I just a lot of it was just cold emailing and reaching out to people that I admired, and then it just sort of snowballed from there to getting a lot of guests, and now we're 20 plus episodes, and just continuing to grow. And yeah, I can talk a little bit more as we go on.
Yeah, wonderful. So, can you share us one story of someone who was your guest, which you really kind of stick to you as, oh my God, this is possible, and that's how the people are doing it. Just one story.
Yeah, it's so hard to pick one because almost every guest I'm so inspired by them. But it was actually just my second episode, which I recorded with Michael Yoffe, the founder of Arist. Some of you might be familiar, but Arist is like this very rapidly growing startup in the ad tech space, which is what it's doing is basically using text messages to deliver education to especially to countries where they don't have internet access. So that was kind of the idea behind it, and he's also the founder of Tile, which is sort of like TED but for our generation. So having conversations with for high schoolers and students of my age. So his story is so inspiring because everything he does is just even though they've turned out to be such profitable businesses, it always starts with how to impact the most amount of people and how to solve like a problem in the world. So for him, it began with just seeing that in Yemen, there was these refugee camps, and they didn't have access to a lot of people didn't have access to education because of they didn't have internet access. And even though there are these so many courses like MOOCs and online open courses, they weren't able to really learn or access them. So that's why text messages and things like WhatsApp or other platforms where you don't need internet access, but you can deliver it just through the other means. That was kind of the inspiration for him, and now it's one of the fastest growing startups in the world, and he has so much insights to gain. So I would highly recommend listening to that episode if you want to start out with the podcast. It's really inspirational.
No, that's great. I knew that there has to be something. That's why I asked this question. So, you have been talking to, so you are a young yourself, millennial, and the other young entrepreneurs and startups.
Mhm.
So, what are the top three missteps to avoid when you are actually starting a startup? What you learned from your guests, I want to know because you have been probably asking all those questions to them.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that's something I try to ask a lot is like, what are some common pitfalls or things to avoid?
Mhm.
Um, to I'd say the top three would be number one, it's don't try to do everything yourself, basically, which is a lot of people, even I tried to do that with my podcast in the beginning. It's a really common mistake, right? But a lot of my guests, they talk about, even from the very beginning, try to build a team around you and try to surround yourself with other people who have who share your vision and have similar ideas, and especially the power of mentors and trying to find someone who's done a similar thing in your industry. It's so powerful because it basically gives you a roadmap to follow and a person to rely on for advice. So that's number one is don't do it solo basically and try to get advice. And number two is um, try to number two I would say is oh, sorry, was that from my
Yeah,
phone?
yeah, yeah. It's okay.
Okay. So number two would be really think about, are you solving a problem? Don't just and think about what kind of problem you're solving and what is unique about your business. So a lot of people kind of start a business just because they want to, be put founder in their title, right? And they just want to lead some organization or start something new. But that shouldn't be the reason for starting out. I think every one of them had like a very specific problem they wanted to solve, and that's why they started their business to address that problem. And they kind of talk a lot about, they have a lot of passion for solving that problem. So that's number two. And number three would be, it would be to basically not be afraid of failure or rejection. So just basically taking your chances, not being fearful, but reaching out to, so they've basically taken all of these bold bets on or things that you wouldn't even think of doing, like reaching out to really successful people for being their advisor or being part of their company. And they a lot of times they were successful because they didn't if they didn't receive a response, they didn't really worry about it. They were more focused on just just moving forward and not worried about failure basically. So that's a big thing.
Oh, wonderful. That's great. Sanat, you started your podcast. You have done 21 episodes. So, what are the top three success secrets of your podcast based on your own experience? And you learned from the guests. So, just give us the top three so we can actually emulate your success.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely. That's a great question. I think if I was to reverse the previous answer about pitfalls, it would be kind of similar. So I'll try to give some other advice. But number one would be to always continue learning and growing. So no matter who you are, no matter where you reach in your field, you always have to continue. Like Michael Yaffe, who I mentioned, he every day he said he emails at least five people in the morning. I don't know. Last time I talked, he mentioned that. So he emails at least five people he wants to learn from, and just cold emails them a lot of times, and just to continue learning and meeting people who have more knowledge than him. And he also has always like reads more about education about the industry that he's in. There's also all my other interviews. Like I've interviewed people who aren't just young people, like more like kind of veterans in the industry. And that's another thing they talk about is, yeah, just continuing to learn and grow, and never thinking that you're an expert or that you know everything. Number two would be kind of a similar thing. I think that's like one of the biggest is just learning and growing. But number two, try to always be like humble and take an open minded. And that's how, like working with a team, you have to not just try to focus on your ideas but get the most out of your team, and try to figure out where everyone else is an expert at, and curate that kind of um, dream team around you. So take advice, be very humble about yourself, and just focused on learning from your team and getting the most out of your team, and finding out where they're good at and what their strengths are, and using them to cover up for your weaknesses. And then number three would be again like the failure. It's their success secret is just uh, like not taking bold like bets and not being afraid to sort of fail. I think I'd like to expand on that a little bit. They're kind of one thing they talk about is like not thinking of failure as it's more of a stepping stone to success, right? So if, for example, I interviewed Victor Luo, who he started this tech company Bound, and just at the age of 18 or 19, he was leading a team of 10 software engineers and 10 people who were all older than him and experienced than him, but it ended up not kind of working out after a year. But he just talked about how much experience he gained from that, and just leading this huge team of people. That was something that he could never get in another setting. And even though he had to take a year off of school, it was definitely worth it, and he didn't think of it as a failure. So that's one of the last big thing.
Oh, that's a great lesson. Thank you so much, Sanat, for sharing all this. Let's talk about your podcast. So, who is your ideal guest? Who should be you looking for? Maybe someone you're watching, they can join you.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're interested in the podcast, right now I'm mainly looking for young people. I'd say, for example, under the age of 30, maybe who are building a successful business or organization that's making an impact in the world, and they're basically thinking of the next moonshot. I'd say the next idea that could change society, and they're trying to impact the world on a significant level. If you have that kind of vision and you're building something in to solve that kind of problem, I'd love to have you on. So definitely reach out to me. But in terms of other ideal guests, I have I'm also looking to interview people who are veterans, who not necessarily young people, but they could give advice to the next generation from their experience of being successful. So yeah, if you've achieved success and been able to kind of um, make an impact already, but maybe on the older side, that's also amazing if you have advice you could give to the next generation. So, like for example, I'm interviewing Naveen Jain, who's the founder of Viome and Moon Express, and uh, he's he's someone that could has so much to share with the next generation. So I'm really excited for him as a dream guest in this upcoming week. I'm getting to interview him, and people like, obviously, like a very dream guest would be Elon Musk. People like those kind of people who are really changing society through their businesses. And uh, another person is Vishen Lakiani, who's the founder of Mind Valley. So those are some examples.
Mhm. Examples you're looking for to have a guest, or you already have them as a guest?
I Naveen Jain, I just actually I secured him as a guest, so that's something I'm really excited about. But the other people, obviously, I don't have the yet. That would be probably a little bit into the future. But yeah, those I have had already. A lot of my guests were people I couldn't even dream, like Michael Yaffe, like for example, Art Norens, who's the founder of Nor1, and he just sold his company to Cisco, and yeah, he was such a amazing person to talk to. So yeah, there's so many people.
Great, great. Sanat, we are about to wrap up. What would you say as a final word?
Final word. Okay, that's a lot of pressure, but I definitely say I actually just wrote an article. And I'm starting to blog a little bit more. So maybe I'll talk about one of the concepts I flesh out there. It's basically embracing discomfort, and I think that's one big thing I didn't really mention is if you really want to achieve success, you have to jump into discomfort and really do things like Tim Ferriss, who's one of my mentor of mine. He said, your success can directly be measured by how many uncomfortable conversations you're willing to have. So how much are you willing to kind of go beyond your comfort zone and reach for things like, reaching out to someone who you think is way above your kind of level, but just don't be afraid, just do that. Or anytime you have this like feeling that, oh, this is something that like you're afraid of doing something, or something that's going to be beyond your level of comfort, just kind of go for it and do it. Because every time you push yourself, you're expanding your level of comfort. You're training yourself to seek discomfort and seek new experiences and be able to learn and adapt from that. So I'd say that's a very big lesson that I kind of am trying to do more and more. Like taking a cold shower in the morning. That's one easy step you can implement. Just turning that knob too cold, right? And right now it's actually really cold even in California, so it's really hard for me to do that. But and going outside in the cold, so cold exposure is something that's really uncomfortable, but it's trains your mind to embrace that and to just seek discomfort. I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, the whole lesson is that your last word is get out of your comfort zone, and your success depends upon the how many time you got out of comfort zone, and that's and have a conversation with someone you never thought is even possible. Is that right?
Okay, that's one. Yeah, conversations in every domain. I think it applies.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Sanat, for sharing your wisdom with us today. On the behalf of Growth Hacking Secrets Show community and our entire team, we really appreciate you. This is Muhammad Siddique signing off from Atlanta, Georgia, and all good wishes.